It was a late night at the Bellagio. My shift had run long, and as I finally made my way back to my room, I spotted a woman struggling with her motorcycle in the parking lot. My chivalrous instincts kicked in, and I offered to help. As she looked up to acknowledge my offer, I was momentarily stunned. She was strikingly beautiful, with long, cascading curls framing a heart-shaped face. A pair of oversized sunglasses shielded her eyes, but I could sense a hint of sadness in her gaze. Her lips, painted a vibrant red, were full and inviting. Her porcelain skin was flawless, even in the dim light of the parking lot. As I helped her maneuver the bike into a parking spot, couldn't help but wonder who she was. She seemed too elegant, too refined to be just another guest. Maybe she was here for a job interview? The Bellagio was hiring for an accounting position, and her stylish yet professional attire, form-fitting white blouse and a sleek black pencil skirt, seemed to fit the bill. I had to admit, though, there was something alluring about the way her curves filled out that blouse, the way she moved with an effortless grace. But I wasn't about to cross any lines. I was a gentleman, after all, and wouldn't pry into a stranger's business. Over the next few days, I noticed her red motorcycle parked in the lot every evening around 5, just as my shift was starting. Curiosity gnawed at me. Finally, I couldn't resist asking the receptionist about her. "Hey, you know that woman with the red motorcycle? The one who's always dressed so sharply?" The receptionist, a bubbly young woman with a penchant for gossip, smirked. "Oh, honey, you don't know? She's a working girl, only comes out at night." I was taken aback. "Really? But she seems so elegant. How do you even know that?" The receptionist leaned in, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "She's in her room all day, doesn't leave until late afternoon. And let me tell you, she's not working the night shift." She giggled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Guess what she does for a living?" I shook my head, my curiosity piqued. "She's a high school teacher. Goes to school in the morning, moonlights as a call girl in the afternoon. Doesn't do the overnight shift, though," she revealed, a hint of disdain in her voice. I didn't like the judgment in her tone, the way she seemed to look down on this woman. I forced a smile and turned away, her words echoing in my mind. "A teacher, huh? Interesting," I murmured to myself. There had to be more to her story. Something drastic must have happened to push her into such a double life. I was determined to find out. Problem was, my shifts were at night. If I wanted to get to know her, I needed to be awake during the day, which meant sacrificing my sleep. But my curiosity, fueled by a growing fascination, wouldn't let it go. So I switched my shifts, taking the daytime slot, eager to get closer to this enigmatic woman. The next day I took the day off, determined to catch her coming in. As expected, around 11 o'clock, her red motorcycle pulled into the parking lot. I watched as she locked up her bike and headed inside, her movements fluid and graceful. I followed her up to the 4th floor, my heart pounding with anticipation. I paused outside her door, hesitant to disturb her. After a few moments, I raised my hand and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, a little louder this time. Still nothing. Just as I was turning to leave, the door creaked open. Scarlett peeked out, eyes wary. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft with a hint of a southern drawl. "Oh, I think I know you. You're Scarlett, right?" I stammered, trying to regain my composure. "You work at the front desk sometimes, don't you, Ethan?" I nodded, suddenly feeling incredibly awkward. What was wrong with me? I had never been this flustered around a woman, especially one in her line of work. But there was something about Scarlett, something about her being a teacher, made her seem different, more normal. "Come in," she said, opening the door wider. I stepped inside, my gaze fixed on the floor. I was acutely aware of her presence, faint scent of her perfume, a subtle blend of vanilla and jasmine filling the air. As I looked around her suite, I was struck by its simplicity. Unlike some of the other women who worked at the Bellagio, Scarlett's room was surprisingly tidy. Apart from a tube of lipstick, a black dress that hugged her curves seductively, a couple of lingerie sets neatly hanging on a rack, there was little evidence of her double life. It was almost ordinary. Scarlett sat down on the edge of the bed, her eyes fixed on me. I was still trying to gather my thoughts, too busy observing her to notice her unwavering gaze. "You're staring," she said, her voice laced with amusement. "What's so fascinating?" "Oh, nothing." You're very minimalist, aren't you? I mumbled, hoping she hadn't noticed my awkwardness. She raised an eyebrow. Minimalist? Is that what they call it these days? You sound like my grandfather. I walked over to the plush armchair and sprawled out, trying to appear more relaxed. Okay, Grandpa, how old do you think I am? She challenged, a playful glint in her eyes. Let me see. 25, 26, tops, I replied, enjoying the banter. I was used to people thinking I was older than my years. It usually amused me. Scarlett laughed, a throaty, melodic sound that sent a shiver down my spine. That's sweet of you, Grandpa. But add another 10 years to that and you'll be closer. I sat up, surprised. Seriously, there's no way. You can't be 36. Believe it. Leave it. Now tell me, how old are you? Don't try to flatter me. I can spot a liar a mile away. I laughed, enjoying her feistiness. Okay, you win. I'm 30. Happy now? I stood up and pulled out my employee ID card. Proof. I work here. Want to make a bet? She smirked. A bet? What kind of bet? The kind where if I lose, I have to do whatever you say? She shook her head. Not a chance. What if you guess right? I was surprised by her quick wit. I had been fully prepared to use her potential loss as leverage to suggest something inappropriate. She had seen right through me. I'm for a new strategy. No. If you lose, you get to choose. Anything you want. Deal? She looked intrigued. Interesting. You're not playing fair, Grandpa, but all right, if you're right about my age, you get a wish. I'm not afraid. She paused, a sly smile curving her lips. You wouldn't be lying about your age too, would you? You don't look a day over 30. I laughed, relieved that she had fallen for my little game. I was already picturing my wish. But before I could elaborate, she spoke again, voice low and seductive. You know what, Grandpa? If you're so confident about your guessing skills, let's make this more interesting. If you win, you can have your wish. And if I win, I get to choose my reward. Scarlett's eyes widened slightly, clearly surprised by my counteroffer. Wow, playing hardball, are we? All right, Grandpa, you've got yourself a deal. If you win, you get your wish, and if I win, well, let's just say I'll come up with something equally creative. She leaned back against the headboard, confident smirk playing on her lips. 36, huh? You think adding 4 years to your age makes you some kind of expert? Please, I don't believe for a second that you're actually over 30. A thrill of excitement coursed through me. I knew I had her. This woman, with her sharp wit and defiant spirit, was far more intriguing than I had anticipated. I stepped closer, leaning in close to her ear. My voice was a low murmur, barely audible above the soft hum of the air conditioner. You seem pretty confident, Scarlett. But what if I told you? This game is already over. You might want to start preparing yourself. Teacher. The word teacher hung in the air, deliberate barb aimed at her carefully constructed facade. For a moment, Scarlett looked genuinely startled. She quickly recovered, her expression hardening. Well then, I guess I'll just have to accept defeat gracefully, won't I? Game over, writer boy. I stumbled backward, completely thrown by her response. She knew? How did she know? Wait, what? How did you... You know I'm a writer. I was completely dumbfounded. Not writer, not that writer guy, but writer boy. It was the nickname I used online, the one I preferred, the one that only a handful of people knew. A slow, knowing smile spread across her face. She had been watching me, playing me all along. It was exhilarating. Let me guess, you're wondering how I figured it out? Don't worry, writer boy, your secret is safe with me. My mind was racing. How could she possibly know? Had she been following me? Had she spoken to someone about me? Hold on. Let's back up a second. How do you know I'm a writer? Did you read my work? Did someone tell you? She chuckled softly. Relax, writer boy. I read your stuff online. What can I say? Occupational hazard. We working girls get bored sometimes. Gotta find ways to entertain ourselves. I laughed, relieved and flattered at the same time. Someone had actually read my work? And enjoyed it enough to remember my online persona? Too bad I don't post my picture online. How'd you connect the dots? She covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes twinkling with amusement. Pure luck, I guess. That day in the parking lot, I had a feeling you were someone interesting. Then I saw a picture of you on the receptionist's computer. Long legs, casual pose, kind of familiar. So I asked her. She just told you my name? Just like that? I was incredulous. She did. And when I went back to my room, I did a little online digging. Turns out, Writer Boy is quite the internet sensation, isn't he? Couldn't help but grin. This woman was full of surprises, and now that she knew who I was, the game had shifted. It was like a spark had ignited between us, an unspoken challenge that crackled in the air. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows that danced across Scarlett's face. Her eyes, hidden behind those dark sunglasses, held a depth I hadn't noticed before. I was suddenly very aware of her teacher outfit. Crisp, white blouse, the tight black skirt, the way it hinted at the curves beneath. It was driving me crazy. If I had been one of her high school students, I wouldn't have been able to focus on anything but her. Dangerous thoughts flickered through my mind. Her white blouse, with its sleeves rolled up to her elbows, was stretched taut across her chest, offering a tantalizing glimpse of her cleavage. Black skirt hugging her hips and thighs accentuated every curve, highlighting the roundness of her ass in a way that made it hard to look away. Her long, dark hair, pulled back in a high ponytail, reminded me of a character from my youth, a fictional icon who had haunted the dreams of countless teenage boys. Miss Thorne, the seductive school teacher from that classic coming-of-age novel. But as quickly as the fantasy arose, I pushed it away. There was something unsettling about seeing Scarlett, this real-life woman with her own story, reduced to a male fantasy. She was more than just a collection of curves and suggestive clothing. She was a working girl, yes, but she was also an educated woman, someone with a mind as sharp as her tongue. Life was complicated, messy, and full of contradictions. Scarlett was living proof of that. After a long moment of silence, I decided to test the waters. "So, Scarlett," I began, my voice deliberately casual, "about this whole teacher thing. You really are a teacher, right?" She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What's it to you, writer boy? Don't tell me you have a schoolgirl fantasy?" No, nothing like that," I said quickly, raising my hands in defense. "It's just, you don't seem like the type." I paused, trying to find the right words. "You seem too sophisticated, too knowing." She laughed, a low, husky sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "Sophisticated? Is that what you call it? Most of the guys I meet just call me hot." "Well, you are hot," I admitted, my voice dropping to a near whisper. "But there's more to you than that, isn't there? What is it about you that makes you seem so different?" She looked at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "What makes you think I'm any different from the other girls you've met?" She was playing with me, testing me. I had to be careful. One wrong move, and I'd blow it. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "It's the way you carry yourself, the way you talk, the way you look at me, like you can see right through me." I paused, my heart pounding in my chest. "It's like you have a secret, something you're hiding behind those beautiful eyes." "It's those sunglasses, Scarlett," I replied, my gaze lingering on her face. "They might hide your eyes, but they can't conceal those eyebrows. There's a certain knowingness in the way you arch them." I reached out, my fingers lightly tracing the curve of her jawline. "And your breathing? It's a little too quick, a little too shallow, almost like you're nervous." Scarlett stiffened slightly beneath my touch, but didn't pull away. I could sense her defenses rising, the walls she had so carefully erected starting to crumble. "So tell me, Scarlett, what's your current state of mind? Don't worry, I'm an expert at reading people." "Oh, really? Writer boy? And how did you acquire such expertise? Through all your extensive research?" She retorted, her voice laced with sarcasm. "Call it experience. Years of observing people, paying attention to the subtle cues, the body language, the way their eyes shift when they're lying. It's all there, Scarlett, if you know how to read it. So what's your verdict? Excited? Anxious? Aroused? I'm dying to know." "All right, fine, you win," she conceded, her shoulders slumping slightly. "I'm flustered. Happy?" I grinned, knowing I had her right where I wanted her. "Flustered, huh? So flustered you'd even agree to sleep with me?" "Oh, please. You're so predictable, writer boy. I knew that's what you were going to say." She threw her head back and laughed, the sound echoing through the spacious suite. This woman was good, really good. She had called my bluff, but I wasn't about to let her regain control of the situation. I had to keep her off balance, keep her guessing. "Okay, fine, you're right, I was being obvious. But tell me, Scarlett, why are your hands fidgeting so much? Is it cold in here? Or is there something else making you uneasy?" My eyes were fixed on her hands, the way her fingers were intertwined, constantly moving, as if trying to find an escape. "It's the air conditioning. It's a little chilly," he replied, her voice losing some of its confidence. I leaned closer, my gaze unwavering. "Really? Are you sure it's not the fact that you're sitting here with a strange man in a hotel room, playing a dangerous game?" Scarlett fell silent, fidgeting increasing. It was fascinating, watching her try to maintain her composure while her body betrayed her true emotions. It reminded me of something I had learned from my years of interviewing women in her profession. For many of them, the act itself was just a transaction, a means to an end. Their moans, their whispers, their apparent pleasure was all part of the performance. But beneath the surface, there was often a complex mix of emotion: fear, resignation, even a strange sense of detachment. Scarlett, with her intelligence and her carefully constructed facade, was clearly different. But even she couldn't completely hide the vulnerability simmering beneath the surface. "Tell me, Scarlett. I'm curious. Why are you doing this? You're a teacher. You have a career, an education. What drives a woman like you to?" Paused, unable to finish the sentence. Scarlett's head snapped up, her eyes meeting mine for the first time since I had entered the room. There was a vulnerability in her gaze that I hadn't seen before. "Don't judge me, writer boy. You have no idea what I've been through. You have no idea what it's like to..." Her voice cracked and she looked away as if ashamed. It was clear she wanted to tell me, to confide in someone. But something was holding her back, a wall of silence she couldn't seem to break through. We sat in silence for a while, the tension in the room palpable. It was clear that there was more to Scarlett's story than met the eye. But then, just as quickly as the vulnerability appeared, vanished. Scarlett turned away, her shoulders stiffening. There was a sadness in her eyes, a deep, aching sorrow, but it was as if something was holding her back, a dam of unspoken words choking her. I had a feeling that if she spoke, tears would come, and I hated seeing women cry. It made them seem so fragile, so vulnerable, and I always felt this overwhelming urge to protect them, to shield them from the harsh realities of the world. Without thinking, I stood up and walked over to her. I gently placed a hand on her shoulder, my fingers brushing against her soft skin. "Hey, it's okay. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," I said softly. I ran my fingers through her hair, a soothing gesture meant to comfort her. Scarlett leaned into my touch, her body trembling slightly. "It's okay, Scarlett. We don't have to talk about it anymore," I whispered, my voice barely audible. I knew what it was like to survive in a world that judged women harshly, that labeled them and dismissed them based on their choices. Some women in her profession were driven by greed, by a desire for easy money and a lavish lifestyle. Others were trapped by circumstance, by crushing debt or manipulative partners. You, like my own best friend, had been lured into the life under false pretenses, their dreams and aspirations shattered by betrayal and desperation. It was a world I knew all too well, and it filled me with a deep sense of empathy for the women caught in its web. For a long moment, we sat in silence, the air thick with unspoken emotions. The weight of her unspoken story, tension that had been building between us, made the room feel suffocating. I needed to break the tension to lighten the mood. "Hey, how about we get out of here? Grab a drink, maybe catch a movie?" "My treat," I suggested, hoping to distract her from her somber thoughts. Scarlett looked up at me, her eyes widening in surprise. "A movie? But I'm still on the clock," she stammered, glancing at her watch. I had forgotten that she was still working. I had a habit of forgetting about people's professions, treating them as individuals rather than labels. "How much do you charge per client? And where do you advertise? I wouldn't want to stumble across your profile online and recognize, I asked, trying to sound casual. $2,000, she replied, voice flat. Was surprised. Given her beauty and sophistication, I expected her to charge a lot more. 2,000? I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. Seriously, you could easily charge double that. 2,000 is my rate, she said firmly, meeting my gaze. I thought for a moment, a mischievous idea taking shape in my mind. I'll give you 3,000. Spend the evening with me instead. Scarlett's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. She seemed speechless, her gaze dropping to her lap. After a moment, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Why? I shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. No reason. Just felt like it. Scarlett hesitated, her fingers nervously twisting a strand of her hair. I don't think so. I'm not comfortable with that. It wouldn't feel right. Of course, I understand. It's perfectly normal to feel uncomfortable. But I'm just being honest, Scarlett. If you had agreed, I would have found you, well, predictable. Lucky for you, you're full of surprises. She looked at me, her brow furrowed. You're right, people do say you're intimidating, writer boy. Who said that? I asked, amused by her observation. Everyone, at least everyone I've talked to here. I had to admit, I enjoyed the effect I had on her. This whole encounter was turning out to be far more interesting than I had anticipated. Before she could say another word, I reached out and took her hand, pulling her gently toward me. She resisted slightly, but I held on firmly, leading her towards the bed. She followed obediently, her eyes wide with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. Pointed to the bed. Lie down, Scarlett. Without a word, she lay down, her gaze fixed on the ceiling. I turned away and headed toward the bathroom. I needed a shower. The tension in the room was palpable, and a cold shower was exactly what I needed to clear my head. When I emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped around my waist and my hair still damp, I found Scarlett sitting up in bed, her back against the headboard. She was staring at me with wide, startled eyes, like a deer caught in headlights. I had to laugh. She looked so innocent, so vulnerable, curled up under the crisp white sheets. It was a stark contrast to the confident, sharp-tongued woman I had met just moments ago. What's wrong, Scarlett? You look like you've never seen a man in a towel before, I teased, walking over to the bed and sitting down beside her. What are you doing? She demanded, her voice sharp. Put some clothes on. Relax, teacher. Just needed to freshen up a bit. It's been a long day, I replied, reaching for the TV remote. And please don't call me teacher. It's unsettling. Then what am I supposed to call you? Mr. Writer? Writer boy? She glared at me, her arms crossed defiantly over her chest. What are you doing in my room anyway, and why aren't you dressed? Just taking a little break. It's hot out there, I said, gesturing toward the window. Why didn't you shower in your own room? I felt like a change of scenery. Besides, your bathroom has a much nicer view. I smiled, enjoying her annoyance. Why are you being so weird? She asked, pulling the sheet up to her chin. She was still wearing her teacher outfit, even her shoes. It was clear she hadn't seen any clients yet today. I decided to change the subject. So no customers yet today? No, not yet. Her voice was barely a whisper. I was indisposed. I lay down on the bed, stretching out my legs. Want to go out? Coffee? Movie? I'm in the mood for something entertaining. You're already in my room, half naked, and now you want to take me to a movie? Scarlett said, her voice laced with disbelief. Do I look that naive to you? Hey, I'm just trying to be nice. It's hot out there, and I thought you might enjoy a little break, I said, raising my hands in defense. Besides, I'm not asking you to do anything inappropriate. Just hang out. Right, because a man and a woman, alone in a hotel room, never leads to anything inappropriate. She gave me a withering look. I'm not that stupid, Ethan. All right, fair enough, I said, chuckling. But you have to admit, it is a little stuffy in here. How about we just get some fresh air? We could walk along the strip, people watch, maybe grab some ice cream? I rolled onto my side, facing her. As I did, the towel loosened, slipping down my hips. I didn't bother to adjust it, letting it fall to the floor. You could even change into something more comfortable, I suggested, my eyes sweeping over her body. That outfit doesn't exactly scream relaxation. I propped myself up on one elbow, my hand resting beneath my head, watching her. Scarlett was still clutching the sheet defensively. I reached out and gently tugged it away, covering her with it completely, except for her head. You know, you could change out of those clothes. They don't exactly look comfortable, unless you're planning on entertaining a client anytime soon, I asked, my voice laced with playful sarcasm. Scarlett glared at me. Are you suggesting I change so you can, what, have your way with me? Don't flatter yourself, writer boy. I'm not that easy. Easy? Huh. I'm not some hormonal teenager looking for a quick hookup. I'm a grown man, Scarlett. I was genuinely offering to take you out. But if you're not interested, that's fine. Stay here, stew in your own paranoia. I started to get out of bed, feigning annoyance. Wait, she blurted out. I didn't mean it like that. It's just, I'm not sure I trust you. Look, we're both adults here. I'm not going to pressure you into anything you don't want to do. But I am being honest when I say I'd like to spend some time with you outside of this. I gestured vaguely at the room. If that makes you uncomfortable, we can go somewhere public, somewhere you feel safe. We can even just sit in the lobby and talk. I'm easy. I winked at her, trying to lighten the mood. Fine, Scarlett said, her voice softer now. I'll change, but I'm keeping my eyes on you. She disappeared into the bathroom, and I lay back on the bed, closing my eyes. A few minutes later, she emerged, wearing a slinky black slip dress with delicate lace trim. It was simple, elegant, and incredibly sexy. The dress clung to her curves, revealing the smooth expanse of her shoulders and the subtle swell of her breasts beneath the sheer fabric. She wasn't wearing a bra, and my pulse quickened as I took in the sight of her. Scarlett walked towards the bed, her hips swaying with a confidence that made my breath catch in my throat. The scent of her perfume, a heady mix of vanilla and musk, filled the air, intoxicating me. I hadn't planned on sleeping with Scarlett. I wasn't even sure I wanted to. But as she stood before me, bathed in the soft glow of the bedside lamp, her eyes sparkling with a mix of defiance and vulnerability, I felt a surge of desire so powerful it threatened to overwhelm me. She was mesmerizing, captivating blend of innocence and experience, and I couldn't tear my eyes away. The dim lighting, the soft music playing on the stereo, the intoxicating scent of her perfume, it was all creating an atmosphere of undeniable intimacy. In that moment, I forgot about her profession, about the secrets she held, about the walls she had built around herself. All I could see was Scarlett, the woman, the enigma, the irresistible temptation. I wanted her, but it wasn't just her beauty that captivated me. It was the way she carried herself, the intelligence that sparkled in her eyes, the subtle hints of vulnerability that peeked through her carefully constructed facade. And every time I thought of her as the teacher, a strange thrill shot through me, a forbidden excitement that both intrigued and unnerved me. Scarlett climbed onto the bed, curling up under the covers, her body tense and uncertain. Turned to face her, softening my gaze, hoping to ease her anxiety. I reached out and gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, my fingers lingering on her cheek for a moment. She was beautiful, breathtakingly so, and in that moment I felt an overwhelming urge to make her smile. "You're beautiful, Scarlett," I whispered, my voice husky with emotion. "Really?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Even now? Even after? Everything?" "Especially now. Forget about everything else. Right now, you're perfect. Just the way you are." She seemed to relax a little, a faint smile playing on her lips. "So, what's the next move, writer boy? What does a man do when he's in bed with a beautiful woman? Don't tell me you're going to ask me to read you some poetry?" She teased, her voice regaining some of its playful edge. Her words, though spoken in jest, held a deeper meaning. She was still holding on to her teacher persona, using it as a shield, a way to maintain a safe distance. I studied her for a moment, amused by her attempt to regain control. "Poetry? You'd be surprised what I have in mind, teacher. But a man needs the right accompaniments to truly appreciate such fine company. It's a shame I don't have a bottle of champagne on hand. Or a roaring fireplace. Or what?" she asked, curiosity piqued. "Or a woman who knows how to enjoy a good time without needing alcohol to loosen up," I replied, my gaze meeting hers. "You assume I need alcohol to have a good time? Writer boy, I've had my share of good times, and bad. Completely sober." "Oh, I know you have, Scarlett. That's what makes you so intriguing. You're a woman of contradiction. Teacher who moonlights as a freelancer. A woman who can quote Shakespeare and seduce a man with a single glance. Tell me, Scarlett, which side of you is the real one? Or are they all just different masks you wear to hide your true self? Maybe that's for you to figure out, writer boy," she said, her voice dropping to a sultry whisper. I stood up and walked over to the minibar, grabbing a bottle of water. As I walked back to the bed, I noticed my phone lying on the nightstand. An idea struck me. I picked up the phone and scrolled through my music library, settling on a playlist of smooth jazz. The mellow tunes, a blend of saxophone and piano, filled the room, creating a sensual, relaxed atmosphere. I climbed back onto the bed, settling in next to Scarlett. The music was perfect, soft, seductive, with a hint of melancholy. We lay there for a while, listening to the music, our bodies inches apart. The air between us was charged with unspoken desires, tension that was both exciting and unnerving. Without realizing it, my hand had found its way to her thigh, my fingers tracing circles on her bare skin. She didn't move, didn't pull away. I slid my arm around her waist, pulling her closer, our bodies molding together perfectly. The music swelled, the saxophone wailing a mournful melody mirrored the bittersweet emotions swirling within me. We were lost in a world of our own creation, a world where words were unnecessary, where touch and intuition spoke volumes. Afterwards, I lay there, exhausted, my body sated. I reached for a cigarette, the small flame flickering in the darkness, and took a long drag, exhaling a plume of smoke that swirled towards the ceiling. Scarlett was nestled against me, her breathing shallow and even. "Tired?" I asked, my voice hoarse. She just nodded, her head resting contentedly on my chest. I knew what she needed, silent. The afterglow of intimacy was best enjoyed in quiet contemplation. We lay there for a long time, our bodies intertwined, our thoughts drifting like smoke in the still air. After a while I spoke again, my voice barely above a whisper. "So Scarlett, about your life, how do you feel about all of this?" "It's complicated," she replied, her voice muffled against my chest. "But tonight was nice." A small smile touched her lips. I knew what she meant. For a few precious hours we had escaped the complexities of our lives, finding solace and connection in each other's arms. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated bliss. I cherished it. Exhaustion finally overtook us, and we drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's embrace. When I woke up, the sun was streaming through the curtains, casting long shadows across the empty bed. Scarlett was gone. Panic surged through me. I scrambled out of bed, searching the suite frantically. I checked the bathroom, the closet, even under the bed. She was nowhere to be found. I raced out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I checked the hallway, elevator, even the lobby. There was no sign of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. I tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I sent her text messages, emails, even tried contacting her through social media. Nothing. She had disappeared, leaving no trace behind. I never saw Scarlett again. I have no idea what happened to her, where she went, or why she left so abruptly. Maybe she was ashamed of what had happened between us. Maybe she was afraid of getting caught. Or maybe she just needed a fresh start, chance to escape the life she had been living. Whatever the reason, her absence left a void in my life. I missed her sharp wit, her fierce intelligence, her intoxicating scent. Most of all, I missed the way she made me feel. Alive, challenged, and completely out of control. Was it love? Lust? Infatuation? I don't know. All I know is that Scarlett, the enigmatic teacher who moonlighted as a call girl, left an indelible mark on my soul. A reminder that even in the darkest of places, unexpected connections can bloom, leaving behind a trail of bittersweet memories that linger long after the encounter is over. And that, dear listeners, is the end of our story. A tale of lust, intrigue, and the fleeting nature of connection, in a world where appearances can be deceiving, and even the most carefully constructed facades can crumble under the weight of desire.